Fantastic. Alrighty, let's get into it. We have Carla today, who is a sleep coach for adults, and we are super excited to have her on board and teach us all about sleep and how to sleep better on day shift and night shift, and even on R&R. So let's get into it, Carla. Fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Oh, pleasure. No, I was so excited that you reached out. So yeah, love talking about sleep, love helping people improve their sleep. And obviously just because there are so many benefits to health wellness. So yeah, it's a major passion. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Fantastic.
All right, let's dive in. So I called this Live Better by Improving Your Sleep. As I mentioned, there's just so many health benefits from sleeping well. And there's a whole lot of negative things from sleeping badly. And I'm going to try not to touch too much on the negative. I'm going to try and focus on the positive stuff. But yeah, let's crack in. So I'm Carla. Hello. So I actually left corporate life 3 years ago to follow my passion of helping people. I actually started with a wellness business, a face-to-face wellness business, and started getting interested in sleep coaching shortly after that. I actually love sleep coaching so much, and just feel that there is, so much scope and so much benefit in sleep coaching that I'm actually in the process of closing my face-to-face business so that I can put all of my energy, into this. Yeah, it's exciting. It's stressful, but yeah, it's exciting. But aside from that, I've always been a sleep nerd, and I'm actually just really excited that I can share my passion to make a difference in people's lives. Okay, so I was going to tell you a little bit about my values because I think it's important to know a little bit more about me, because essentially it's my values that drive me to do what I do. So I imagine, just like you, Emma, one of my key values is health and wellness, and it's not just about myself, but it's about others' health and wellness as well. So, that's why we do what we do, right?
Absolutely.
I love freedom and adventure, super active, love the outdoors, and this sort of value of freedom is also part of the reason that I left corporate life to begin with. I also value achievement and worthiness. So it's really helping other people lead healthier and happier lives. That gives me a feeling of accomplishment. So I love helping people, and it really just gives my life purpose. So I am on Instagram. So if any of the ladies are watching this later and would like to follow me, or if they're going to take any pictures or video or anything like that, feel free to tag me. That would be awesome. Okay, so who is this for? So this is really for the woman who is struggling to maintain concentration during her shift, the woman who can't lose weight despite following an awesome training plan, the woman who uses alcohol to wind down for her sleep, the woman who's relying on coffee and sugary food to get through her shift, and the woman who feels like she's stuck in a cycle of exhaustion and fatigue. So this is for the woman who really just wants to feel great when she wakes up.
Absolutely. I think that's something FIFO girls can relate to, every single one of those little points there, and even me sometimes too with the caffeine.
Oh, honestly, I mean, even if you have great habits, there's always little things that creep back in. Even me at the moment, because I'm super stressed, I'm just smashing caffeine. So yeah, it happens even to those of us that are probably better at it than most.
Absolutely.
So today I'm going to share with you some of the things that you might be doing to sabotage your health and wellness, the impact of shift work on your health, and how to try and minimize the negative effects, the effect that sleep has on your hormones, your weight, and your food choices. And I'm also going to give you some tools that you can start implementing straight away to help improve your sleep and ultimately your health. So instead of feeling drained during the day, struggling to get out of bed in the morning, having no energy to play with the kids, feeling fatigued, looking tired and worn out, or struggling to lose weight and relying on caffeine and sugar throughout the day, imagine waking up refreshed and ready to attack the day, being able to give the kids a run for their money at the park, feeling motivated and productive at work, loving what you see in the mirror, hitting your weight and gym goals, and really having consistent energy throughout the day to do all of the things a busy woman needs to do. So why is good sleep important? So it is essential for a healthy body and mind. It helps to restore and repair physically. It helps improve learning and memory. To learn well, you need to sleep prior to learning, so the night before learning, but you actually also need to have a good sleep the night after learning to actually consolidate those memories. Good sleep increases motivation and concentration. So I'm sure we've all been there. You know, how keen are you to get up and go to the gym or tend to the kids or even go to work after you've had a crappy night's sleep? It improves mood and mental health. Again, you've probably maybe experienced that emotional roller coaster that you go through when you have a crappy sleep. You end up arguing with your partner because you just find it a little bit hard to just maintain that stable emotion. It also helps with better decision making and impulse control, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later as it relates to food. It's actually going to help you improve your strength and fitness. And finally, it's going to make you more attractive. And we're also going to talk about a study that looked at that in particular.
Love it.
Who doesn't want to look good, right? I mean, you know. All right, so there's a few common misconceptions around sleep, and I've just kind of pulled out a few that kind of came to my mind that I thought might be, you know, relative here. So the first one is 8 hours is key. Actually, we want to be getting between 7 and 9 hours a night, and that depends greatly on the person. But it's not just the quantity of sleep that's important. It's actually also the quality. So we need to get quality sleep. And by this, I mean REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and deep sleep. So REM sleep is where we dream, and that's really focused on the mental restoration. Deep sleep, on the other hand, is, as the name suggests, our deepest form of sleep. So that's where most of the physical restoration occurs. So as you can see, we need a balance of it, and we need a certain amount most nights to make sure that we're recovering well. Falling asleep instantly or anywhere equals a good sleeper. Unfortunately, this is not true. So if for people that are falling asleep on the couch, fall asleep straight away in the car, hit the pillow and are falling asleep within seconds, that can often mean that you're actually sleep deprived, and there might be some work to be done around behaviors, habits, sleep hygiene, all that kind of stuff. Not sleeping during the week and then catching up on the weekend. Again, whilst you may sleep longer on the weekend, of course you do, you get more hours, you can't actually catch up on the benefits you've missed out on during those bad nights of sleep during the week. So to have the best health possible, we want to be getting consistently good sleep as much as we can, good quality, every night. A lot of people feel like alcohol helps them sleep. They use it to wind down. They feel like it helps them get deeper sleep. It helps them fall asleep. Unfortunately, it doesn't help with sleep, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into why that is. And the last one, snoring is normal or harmless. I've even heard it called cute. Snoring can actually be an indicator for a serious sleeping disorder called sleep apnea. So this is actually where someone stops breathing multiple times during the night. It's actually more common in men, but since I've been coaching, I have actually coached several women who have been at risk of sleep apnea. I've got one client at the moment who's waiting on getting a sleep test because she's actually rated as quite high risk. And she is not overweight, she's very active, she's in her 30s. So it just kind of goes to show that, you know, you don't necessarily have to be sitting in a particular kind of demographic, I guess, to actually have this problem. And then there's issues around, you know, just snoring in general, how much oxygen you're getting, how that whole kind of gas exchange is happening. So snoring, not great. Again, this is something that I like to work on with a lot of my clients. Okay, the science, briefly, hopefully. I just thought it was really important. I didn't want to get too technical, but I just thought it was important to give a little bit of an understanding about, I guess, the science. So there's 3 things that we need to align to get great sleep. So the first one is sleep pressure, sometimes called sleep drive. So, excuse me, what happens is, put my pen down. I don't know, I'm like pointing with a pen. So essentially what happens is the entire time you are awake, the sleep drive is building. And then as soon as you sleep, it basically dissipates and drops off. So that includes if you have a nap. So if you have a nap midday, it's going to be building, then it drops off, then you wake up again and it starts building. So we want that to be nice and high when we go to sleep. That's why, you know, you often hear that people that are having problems sleeping at night are normally urged against having a nap during the day, because that can take down some of that sleep drive. We want it to be maximal at night. The second thing is a balanced stress system. So here we're talking about the ability to actually turn off and relax, which is vital to fall asleep quickly and deeply, and also stay asleep during the night. The final one is circadian timing or circadian rhythm. So this refers to our internal 24-hour clock. I'm going to talk a lot more about this, and this is actually a lot of what today's talk is going to be about. Okay, circadian rhythm, here we go. So it refers to our internal 24-hour clock. So this clock is actually a touch over 24 hours. It's on average 24 hours, 15 minutes, and it varies between person. But every process in our bodies aligns to this internal 24-hour clock. And all of those processes have a preferred time to operate. So we're talking about, you know, digestion, boosting immunity, when peak strength and coordination occurs. And the key ones, of course, relating to today, are when we want to be asleep and when we want to be awake. So when we talk about circadian rhythm, the biggest impact on this is actually light. It's morning light resets our circadian clock each day. So if we didn't have that morning light, if we were living in a cave, for example, the circadian clock would actually push out by that 15 minutes every day. And if we kept doing it consistently, if we're in, you know, dark for, you know, a month, it would be pushed out a little bit every day until we're actually completely out of sync with, you know, world time, essentially. So seeing that daylight every morning is actually a key input to really resetting and realigning that circadian rhythm each day. And what that means is that you'll then get, for example, a release of melatonin in the evening at a certain time after seeing the light. So it kind of kicks off all of that nighttime activity as well. Circadian rhythm is actually also partly affected by genetics, which is really interesting. And I actually love this. A little bit of sleep nerd, obviously. Here we go. So most people have probably heard of sort of morning or evening types, you know, morning lark, evening owl. So it's a real thing. You're actually genetically, you have a genetic preference to where within the 24-hour window your body wants to do certain things. And it can actually be broken down even further into 4 categories. There's a cool quiz, well, I think it's cool, that you can do to actually find out what your chronotype is. And it's interesting because you might feel like you're, oh, I'm not a morning person, or, oh, I hate staying up late at night. But you can do this quiz and you can actually see, oh, okay, maybe that's why, because there is actually a genetic preference there in terms of what time your body wants to get up, what time it wants to do certain things. And essentially we can use these circadian levers or tools to reset and also adjust our clock. So this is what we use to help fix sleep, but also make adjustments or maximize or reduce the difficulty from, you know, transitioning to and from night shift. Okay. All right, so alcohol. Do you feel like you sleep better after drinking in the evening? So the answer often I hear is actually yes. So alcohol actually falls into a bucket called sedatives. So what this means is that even though it might feel like it initially knocks you out and that you sleep well, it doesn't actually allow you to get the natural sleep that we need. So when I'm talking about natural quality sleep, I'm talking about REM and deep sleep that I mentioned earlier. So the other impact it has is that it causes dehydration. What that means is that you'll actually wake more during the night, which ultimately will mean that you feel unrefreshed when you wake. I saw an interesting stat earlier this week and blew my mind a little bit. So it actually said, it was a study that was done, and it said that one drink for women, I think it was 2 for men, one drink for women reduced sleep quality by 39%, which is massive. Like just, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Think about that when you're choosing your evening beverage.
Absolutely. 39% less quality sleep.
Yeah, which is, it's huge. It's huge, particularly if you're, and imagine if you're already not getting enough, and then reducing it by that is just massive. Now, I know it can be difficult, having a drink at night to wind down. It's often a social occasion, so I get it. It is tricky. Couple of options for you, and this is something I've been doing lately, and I've actually been really enjoying it. There are some amazing non-alcoholic versions of spirits. I mean, I know you've always been able to get non-alcoholic beer, but I have been having some wonderful non-alcoholic gin. I know that it sounds really weird, but it tastes delicious. And there's a brand called Naked Life. I mean, I don't know if you'd be able to get this on site. Maybe you can take it with you. There's a brand called Naked Life that do these non-alcoholic canned cocktails. And I kid you not, they taste like the real thing. And they haven't got any sugar. So that is an option. The other option, of course, is replacing it with a non-caffeinated tea, something like that. The other option I always like to throw out there, that if the evening drink is actually to wind down and relax, a good option is to actually try implementing some sort of mindfulness practice or relaxing activity instead. So, this could be breath work, yoga nidra, something like non-sleep deep rest, where you just sort of go really deep into a sort of a meditation state. And yeah, if you guys want some resources for this, I can flick them to Emma after this, and yeah, she can pass them on.
Fantastic.
Okay, so this is the juicy one, weight loss. So the less sleep you get, the more likely you are to eat. And I think we've probably all experienced this. I had a few drinks on Saturday night, ate a lot of food the next day, not great choices. So there's actually a good reason for this. So when you don't sleep well, what happens is the hormone which makes you hungry actually increases, and the hormone that makes you feel full decreases. So not only are you not getting the I'm full signal, you're also getting an I'm hungry signal. So it's like getting a double whammy. Your body just doesn't know when it's full, it thinks it's hungry. So then when it actually gets calories, it's actually less able to process those calories effectively. And this is particularly true of sugar. So this is why lack of sleep is actually linked to diabetes, because your body just cannot process that stuff. And then a single night of sleep deprivation also affects what you choose to eat. So, we're eating lots, we're not feeling full, we're not processing the calories, but then we're also actually making bad choices around food because our impulse control is reduced. So you're much more likely to go for, you know, sweets, heavy carbs, salty snacks, stuff like that. Excuse me. And then, so this slide shows a little study that was done around weight loss, or a study looking at the effect of sleep on on fat loss and muscle retention. So I found this pretty amazing. Essentially what it's showing is that they had two groups of people, some that were restricted in their sleeping, some that were provided adequate time to sleep. Now, what they found was that the people that slept less or slept badly, they lost 3 kilos across 2 weeks. But of that 3 kilos, 20% was fat and 80% was muscle. So kind of see that's a little bit problematic, right? Because normally when we're dropping weight, we want to be maintaining the muscle and losing the fat. In the group that slept well, they also lost almost 3 kilos, so 2.9, pretty close. The big difference here was that they lost, that 48% of the weight loss was fat and 52% was muscle. So massive change. Good to point out here that in this particular study, these participants were doing 0 weight training. So whilst 52% muscle seems like a lot, I think, Emma, you probably agree with this. If they were actually doing weight training, I reckon you'd actually be holding on to a lot more muscle than that. But you can see, you know, like for like, the difference is huge. So basically it turns out that, you know, sleep deprived bodies just don't want to give up that fat. They just want to hold on to it.
But they're happy to give away the muscle though. That's really shock to me. Like,
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially when you're
crazy.
You know, getting stronger. Most of my girls, you know, they want to feel stronger, but having, you know, less sleep, they're just throwing away muscle. That's wild.
Essentially just wasting your time in the gym. I mean, and I guess that sort of talks to, you know, I speak to a lot of people who will get up super early, basically restrict their sleep so they can go to the gym in the morning. If there is an option between losing sleep, between getting a proper night's sleep and going to the gym, you should be choosing sleep every time. You should not be, you should definitely not be restricting your sleep so that you can exercise, because it's really just a waste of time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. Okay, so looking good, attractiveness.
Love it. I love it.
I'm talking about the important topics today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think they're things that people are interested in, right? So you know,
everyone has different motivation for their journey. So
exactly. So this one is actually a really recent study. So a study in 2017. So what they did was they took photos of people after a normal sleep and then after 2 days of bad sleep. Excuse me. The photos were then rated on how much the rater would like to socialize with each person. They also rated their attractiveness and their health. So I know you can probably guess what the results are. The results showed that the raters were less inclined to socialize with the people who had bad sleep, that they rated them as less attractive, and also they perceived them as being less healthy. So there's definitely, you know, it's not the most important thing, but it's probably good to know that, you know, if you're sleeping badly, that is actually having an impact on whether people actually are, you know, wanting to spend time with you. Yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, I know when I have no sleep, I look like I've been dragged through, you know, rubbish dump or something. So I can relate.
That's all right. You can see it in yourself. You look flat, you look dull, you're quite often like sort of a little bit dry. But if you're sleeping well, and I notice it in myself, my cheeks look a lot fuller, my eyes are brighter. So yeah, it's a real thing. Okay, so sleep and hormones. So this is a massive topic. So I'm only going to brush the surface here because, you know, going into this would be a whole nother discussion. But essentially, sleep affects hormones, but hormones also affect sleep. So the key hormones when we think about sleep are melatonin and cortisol. So melatonin is released in the evening to bring on sleep. And this hormone is what will be triggered by seeing morning light. So essentially you see the morning light, the brain goes, sweet, I'm going to start releasing cortisol in 14 to 16 hours. So that's why that morning light is important. Cortisol is the hormone that is released in the morning as we wake up, also triggered by light. So that is what's going to get you up, get you going, get you motivated for the day. We've already discussed the hunger and full hormones. So leptin and ghrelin are their names. I didn't mention them before, but I think they're on the slide. They are both negatively affected by bad sleep. And hormones throughout your cycle can also affect sleep. So particularly towards the end of the cycle when progesterone increases. So to sleep well, our body temperature actually needs to drop. Progesterone increases our temperature. So if anyone out there is tracking their cycle or wearing like a wearable, a Whoop, a Garmin, something like that, you might notice that your resting heart rate and your temperature actually go up near the end of your cycle. So sort of in that last week. And often that will come with a sleep disruption as well. Okay, so shift work. Right, and this is why I wanted to talk a little bit about circadian rhythm first, to give you a little bit of an understanding about sort of why shift work can be quite impactful, and why we sort of talk about these circadian levers or tools to kind of, I guess, optimize our transition to and from, but also make sure that we can operate as well as we can, like during night shift. So really, when you go on to night shift, you're essentially turning your clock on its head. It's confused, right? And it takes time to adjust. So some tips for transitioning to night shift. In the morning, wear sunglasses as soon as it starts getting light or when you finish your shift. Essentially, whenever it's appropriate, I guess, for you to put on some sunglasses, because you really want to avoid that light in the morning, because that's what's going to delay your melatonin that you want to help you sleep in a few hours. You want to ensure your room is dark, cool, and quiet for sleep. I'd even recommend having all this set up before you go to work. So as soon as you get back to your room, it's all set up, it's nice and dark. You're basically trying to mimic nighttime. You want to eat on your new schedule, on the night schedule, as soon as possible. So if eating is another, I guess, trigger for the circadian clock. So this actually has quite a big impact, believe it or not. So you want to align to your eating schedule on night shift. If you're not hungry at an actual meal time, you want to just have a small snack or skip that meal altogether and then wait for the next proper meal time. And that's going to help tell your body that, hey, this is our new cycle. I don't know how this one's going to go down. So we want to actually warm up in the morning and cool down at night. Now, this sounds really counterintuitive, I know, but a cold shower helps you warm up and a warm shower helps you cool down. I'm not going to go deep into the reasons why, but trust me, it's a real thing. So on a hot day, you don't want to be having a cold shower. On a hot day, you actually want to have a warm shower because ultimately that is going to help your body cool down. So with a cold shower in the morning, this can be really confronting for some people, but I do urge you to try it if you have trouble transitioning to and from shifts, or even if you're sleeping badly, because it will help tweak your circadian rhythm, but it just also sets you up really well for the day. It makes you alert. It actually feels really great once you start getting into a little bit of a habit. And I'll talk a little bit more about how you can kind of add that into your routine. Exercise in the morning is also really good because that also increases your temperature. And saying that, if your choice is between, if you can't exercise in the morning and you do need to exercise in the afternoon, evening, totally fine. It's not a deal breaker. Definitely prefer that you do exercise rather than miss out. But you just want to make sure that you're not exercising within a couple of hours of bedtime, because that's going to kind of mess up your sleep as well. And that's mainly due to cortisol and temperature. There's also this cool little thing called phase adjustment. It's a bit of an advanced technique where you essentially take actions to advance or delay your circadian rhythm, to help speed up the transition to and from night shift. So it's a little bit complicated. I won't go into the details here, but it really just makes it a little bit easier to transition, also makes it a little bit faster. Okay, now to the suggestions. Okay, so how to get better sleep. So as I've mentioned already, the most impactful thing on your circadian rhythm is light and of course dark. So if you're on day shift in the morning, you want to get outside soon after waking and view the morning sunlight without sunglasses. Just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, doesn't have to be long. And that morning sunlight is going to trigger your sleepiness later in the evening. For day shift in the evening, you want to dim the lights, ideally using a low lamp, a candle, something like that. If you can, you actually want to avoid your overhead lights. The reason for that is because the sensor in your eye as it relates to sleep is actually at the bottom. So those overhead lights go directly into it. And that's why a low lamp works really well, because if it's down below, it's not going to hit that receptor that's sitting in the bottom of the eye. You can also use red lights. I have a red light in my bathroom, a red light in my bedroom, because that's actually the least impactful color of light that's going to affect your sleep. And ideally, in the sort of 2 to 3 hours before bed, you want to just try and use the dimmest light possible to do what you need to do safely. So if you can happily go about your business just with a candle light, awesome, provided you're not going to be, tripping over stuff. So if you're on night shift, as I've already mentioned, in the morning, pop your sunnies on to avoid sunlight and artificial light. Can be a good idea to have your room already prepared, if possible, with curtains drawn, aircon on, that kind of stuff. If you can't make your room super dark, or if it's a little bit noisy, I recommend using an eye mask and what was I going to say? Lost my train of thought. I was going to talk about earplugs. Just like, oh, yeah. So if you can't make your room dark, eye mask is really good. And yeah, if it's noisy, definitely recommend getting some earplugs. For night shift in the PM, or in the PM, essentially your morning, you want to view light as soon as you wake up. It's probably going to be a little bit late for the sun that's going to help this. So bright artificial light is better than nothing at all. So flick on the fluoro light if that's what you've got, and that's going to sort of replace that sunlight that we like to get when we're doing a day shift. So how to supercharge sleep? So light is the most impactful. So if you do nothing else, just work with the light. That's really the first step and the most important step. But if you really want to go for it and make sure that you have awesome sleep, there's a few other things that can impact our circadian rhythm, or that do impact our circadian rhythm. So temperature. As I mentioned, we want to warm up in the morning. And so again, cold shower, great to try. We want to cool down in the evening. So you want to end your evening with a warm shower and a bath. Now, with the cold shower, it sounds horrible, I can assure you, you actually always get a little bit addicted to it. So what I recommend is you really just want to have a normal shower and then just end it on a little bit of cold. So I quite like to do some breath work there. So maybe you just start with 5 long breaths of cold. Then the next day you make it 10 breaths. So yeah, don't make it feel horrible, but just kind of ease into it. Because we want to be cool at night, you also want to set the aircon to between 15 and 20 degrees. So it's actually lower than most people think. So yeah, keep it sort of 20 and below. And again, it's sort of personal preference, but yeah, better to be cool and warm, and, you know, grab another blanket on top if you need it. Okay, movement. So again, as I mentioned, the best time to train in terms of setting your temperature is going to be the morning, but, you know, don't not train if you can't do the morning. It's still going to be okay in the afternoon and evening, but just not within, you know, 2 to 3 hours of bed. And nutrition is actually a really important one too. So particularly at night, you want to make sure you've got a balance of protein and carbs. So each of these have different effects on the different sleep stages. So one affects REM, one affects deep. So we want to make sure we get a balance of protein and carbs to make sure we get a balance of quality sleep. Excuse me. Also recommend trying to avoid saturated fat and sugar, particularly in your evening meal. Saturated fat is going to take longer to digest, which has potential sleep impacts. And you also want to be mindful about any food intolerances. So eating foods that don't agree with you at night are definitely going to impact how you sleep. And we want to try to avoid eating within 2 to 4 hours before bed. Again, this varies between person to person. For me personally, I find that I sleep best if I stop eating 4 hours before I go to bed. I know it sounds extreme, but I do recommend that people sort of play with this timing if they can. And I know this can be tricky when you've got partners, or, you know, you're on site and you know, perhaps need to align to a certain meal time. But yeah, do have a play with that and see how it affects your sleep. That eating also includes drinks containing calories and snacks. So drinking alcohol, for example, definitely don't be doing that in the few hours before bed if you can avoid it. The reason for this is digestion actually causes our temperature to rise. And at night, remember, we want it to be going down for great sleep. So, and then eating late will mean that the body will prioritize digestion over sleep and all of the sleep related processes. So there are some processes that happen during the night that don't happen at other times. So it's not just sleep that you'd be missing out on, actually be missing out on those processes that normally occur as well. Okay, so quick. All right, so putting it into action. So best way to do this is to have a little evening routine. Having this evening routine will actually help signal to your body, or to your brain, sorry, that it is time to start getting ready for sleep. And it's important to remember that going to sleep is a process. So it's not as easy as just flicking an off switch. It actually takes time. So I recommend starting an hour or two before bed. And bear in mind also that this routine does not have to be complex. So the best evening routine is actually the one that you will do. So if it means that your evening routine is just you have a warm shower, totally fine. But you can potentially build on that later, right? So don't feel like you need to do everything that I've listed here. If this is sort of all new, then you could just pick out 1 or 2 things to start with and just see how that goes. So the things that I like to recommend to most of my clients is finishing eating 2 to 4 hours before bed. Start turning the aircon down gradually a few hours before bed. This kind of helps to ease your body into that lower temperature. Dim the lights, light a candle. I've actually started lighting a candle for my evening shower. It's actually really nice showering by candlelight. So, you know, quite often the bathroom lights are not something that we, you know, we can dim, or, you know, they're quite bright. So yeah, light a candle. It's actually really lovely. And then you want to be doing some sort of relaxing activity, reading, meditate, breath work, NSDR, which is non-sleep deep rest. I'm not going to tell you not to watch TV, because if watching TV or Netflix relaxes you, that is okay. You just want to make sure that the thing that you're watching is not something that's going to get you upset or angry, or, you know, you don't want anything kind of making you all alert. So just be mindful of what it is that you're actually watching on TV. You just want it to be something pretty chill, pretty relaxing. And then, of course, having a warm shower or bath to, again, help us cool down. And finally, consistency is key. So your body loves consistency. It loves a schedule. So try to keep your bedtimes the same, even on the days off. And then in the morning, so having a little morning routine is also going to be helpful. The sunlight in the morning is really the absolute non-negotiable. Just do this if you do nothing else. But then if you really want to maximize sleep in your circadian rhythm, try the cool shower. Again, I just recommend ending your morning shower with, you know, maybe 5 breaths in through the nose, long extended exhale through the mouth, and then build on that each day. Exercise, we've already talked about. If you can, and I know this is tricky depending on sort of what time work starts, try and delay your first coffee to about 90 minutes after waking. There's a reason for this in terms of sleep drive and the way cortisol kind of wakes us up. But yeah, ideally you'd be waiting, sort of, you know, an hour to 90 minutes before you consume your first burst of caffeine. And then, just like the nighttime routine, consistency. Try to keep your wake times as similar as possible. Okay, so making the changes stick. I know that change is hard. I have been there, trust me, I have been up and down, and even with the sleep stuff, like, I know what I need to do, but I just can't be bothered sometimes. So rather than trying to add a whole heap of new habits or actions, start replacing just one bad habit with one good habit. So for example, when we were talking about alcohol, so just, you know, swap out your alcoholic drink with a non-alcoholic one. Done. The other cool thing that I like to do is something called habit stacking. So this is where you essentially stack your new habit onto an existing habit. So for example, you might decide that your new habit is that you're going to read for half an hour before bed. And you might decide to do that immediately post brushing your teeth. So your trigger for reading will be, okay, I brush my teeth, then I read my book. And then you want to make it easy for yourself and set yourself up for success. So if we think about the reading after brushing your teeth example, you might want to keep your book beside your toothbrush as an easy reminder to actually do this after brushing. Okay. All right, so what we've talked about today has really only just scratched the surface. There is just so much going on here. But if you want help, I can help. I do one-to-one sleep coaching, and I'm actually looking at building out a one-to-many program. But essentially, I do a comprehensive sleep and lifestyle assessment, personalized sleep strategy. It's a one-to-one 8-week program with weekly catch-ups and then support after it finishes. So if anyone is interested, sorry, I'm just brushing over these slides because I know that we're running out of time. Yeah, if anyone's interested, yeah, my LinkedIn profile is there. So yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. That was
I
amazing.
felt like I talked a lot. I felt like I talked a lot.
Yeah, no, there was so much information in that. It was amazing, and some stuff that, like, yeah, you just wouldn't think about, really different things there. Yeah, I know for me, like the the lack of sleep being linked to diabetes. That was pretty amazing. Yeah, and something that probably makes me seem like a bit, whatever, bit silly, but the low lamp. So whenever people say a low lamp, I always assumed dim, not low to the ground. I was always like low light, like just dim. And then you were like low to the ground. I was like, well, now I feel like a bit of an idiot.
No, not at all. Easy mistake to make. Absolutely. But yeah, and it's just because of the placement of those receptors in your eyes. But yeah, gosh, sleep is it's just such a huge topic. Yeah, it's just ginormous.
It is.
There's a lot, as I mentioned, there's a lot of negative things that are related to bad sleep, and I try my hardest not to talk about those, but the health impacts are actually massive. So, but then I think it's probably important to sort of focus on how are you feeling? Are you feeling good in the morning? How's your sex drive? Are you enjoying playing with your kids? Sort of focus on that stuff, because that's actually what's important, right? Can you do all the things you want to do? Are you feeling rested enough to socialize? So I think those are the important parts of life. And so I think it's important to sort of connect how you might be sleeping with that. And if you're feeling like never having sex with my partner, I'm always arguing with them, I can't keep up with the kids, then, maybe there needs to be work. Yeah,
absolutely. I just wanted to ask a couple of quick questions. So you were saying, like in that the graphic you had of the with the circadian rhythm, it was saying that your deepest sleep was approximately 2 a.m.
So you tend to, no, sorry, you go.
No, that's all right. I'm just thinking, like, well, a lot of people track their sleep with a smartwatch, a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, or something like that. And I've been tracking my sleep. So just a question around the accuracy of those apps. But then for me, I only have deep sleep in the first few hours when I go to bed. So I have my deep sleep for about 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours when I first go to sleep. And then I don't have any more deep sleep after that. So is that different for everybody, or?
So essentially the way your sleep cycle works is that within a roughly 90-minute window, you get all of the stages of sleep, and that happens throughout the night. The issue with wearables, I love them. I have a Whoop. I absolutely love it, but they are generally not sophisticated enough to accurately tell the difference between deep sleep and REM. So what would be better to focus on is actually the total amount of quality sleep. So just look at the total of REM and deep. Don't look at the breakdown, because it's probably not accurate.
Yeah, but the total times when it says I've had 2.5 hours of deep sleep, that's fairly accurate, that it would be about 2.5 hours worth of deep sleep that I've had.
It probably would, but you still get deep sleep at different parts of the night because it's happening. So what if how many 90 minutes would you have in 8 hours? 5. So it's happening at 5 different times during the night, but it just gets less and less at certain times of the night. So yeah, I forget what the figure is in terms of what percentage of your sleep you want to be quality. So that is REM plus deep. I can't remember what it is. I think it's about 50%.
Yeah.
So I think I'll double check and I'll let you know, but I think it was about 50%. So what you'd want to see is that the total of your REM and deep sleep is roughly 50%.
50%. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, wearables are awesome. I love them. But yeah, I think it's important not to get too caught up in the breakdown of data. Yeah, they'd have to be pretty sophisticated to really track each different stage of your sleep and the cycles and how you go. But yeah, I just wondered, because mine says I'm only getting that deep sleep in the first few hours, whether I was doing it wrong. No, not at all. And you do tend to get more deep sleep in the first half of the night. So even though you get all stages of sleep every 90 minutes, it tends towards deep sleep you get a higher percentage of deep sleep and less REM sleep in the beginning of the night, and then the balance changes, and then you get less deep sleep and more REM later in the night. And actually, that's probably why quite often we wake up and remember, if you remember your dreams, that's probably why, because you're actually getting that REM sleep in the early hours, the really early hours of the morning before you wake. That little circadian clock that I showed was a really generic version of it. So what you've also got to sort of allow for is genetic preference, which can move it sort of 4 hours either side.
Either
so
way.
That's sort of probably one that kind of sits in the middle. So it definitely changes person to person.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched a little bit on snoring and the effects of snoring on sleep and the underlying issues there. What about mouth breathing? Just sleeping with your mouth open. I mean, you get dry and you feel horrendous, but underlying effects of mouth breathing while you're sleeping?
Yeah. This is so close to my heart because I have gone through a transition of being a chronic mouth breather. Look, it's not great. I don't know how deep you want me to get into this, but it's not great. And I guess at a really high level, essentially what is happening when you're mouth breathing is you are not maximizing the oxygen that you're breathing in.
Yeah.
And you're also offloading a lot of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is not a waste gas like we were like I was taught in school. We actually need carbon dioxide to actually use the oxygen that we're breathing. So with mouth breathing, and that's also an issue with sleep apnea, because what will often happen is you'll be mouth breathing, you lie down, and sleep apnea is sort of when this part of your throat basically collapses and your mouth is open. There is something that can help with I think you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy. There are things you can do to help with mouth breathing. You can do mouth taping.
Okay.
It's probably a little bit extreme, and I wouldn't normally recommend it on a group call. It's normally something that I'd recommend on my one-to-one after I've sort of done breathing assessments and checked for anxiety and all this kind of stuff. But if anyone is, I guess, interested, if they know they mouth breathe, and the symptoms are waking with a dry mouth, needing to drink water during the day, but also urinate, needing to go to the bathroom at night. So there's also some functions there which mouth breathing, because of the way the oxygen is not getting consumed, essentially, your body continues to create waste. And what people quite often find is that when they solve the mouth breathing, they no longer need to get up at night to go to the bathroom. Random little benefit. But yeah, if anyone's interested, so I do a lot of the breathwork stuff in my coaching. But there's a great book by Patrick McKeown. His old one is called Oxygen Advantage. His newer one, which I haven't read, is The Breathing Cure. So I'm actually in the process of doing his instructor course, because the way that we breathe, both during life, sleep is huge, but even during exercise, there's a lot of benefits from just making a few sort of minor tweaks.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I talk about breathing with my girls all the time and try getting them breathing differently, and it's really important. That's an interesting one, and like one that I guess is close to me as well. My son is a chronic mouth breather, and the effects on his teeth, actually, the dentist is like, can you get this kid to shut his mouth? Yeah.
Have you seen the I use a mouth tape, but you can actually get this tape for kids. Have you seen it? And it actually goes around the outside of their mouth.
Okay, no, I haven't seen
it. I'll send you the link. Because you don't really want to be putting something on their face. But yeah, it's it probably comes from the UK. But I'll dig out the link.
Very, very interesting topic there, though. With the mouth breathing and similar to snoring and the way that it's messes with the quality of your sleep and all of that stuff. So
and the other thing is you probably already talked to your ladies about this, if you're mouth breathing, you're often chest breathing. Whereas if you sort of lie there, but as soon as you start mouth breathing, you just tend towards diaphragm without even really trying.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Last question from me is about the showers, right? So I've done the shower thing. I had a bet with a friend, actually. It's the only way that I could get in a cold shower. And there's, I guess, that stereotype that women have those lava hot, burn your skin off showers. How bad is that for us?
To be honest, I don't know. Because I'm one of those.
Yeah, like I will get in a steaming hot shower, and my partner's like, no one will get in the shower with me or after me or anywhere around me, because I have my shower so hot that like my ex-husband would jump in the shower, he's like whinging, he'd stand in a corner and he's just about like layers of skin are falling off of him, and I'm like, this is brilliant, this is how I like it. So that's how I shower. Getting me in a cold shower is near on impossible. Even on a hot day, I don't even like a cold shower. Like it takes a lot for me to get in there, and I really got to count it out. But is the lava hot? Is it having it that steaming hot? Is it really bad for us for our sleep?
No. So at night, totally fine. You want because so the way it works is essentially when you have a hot shower, you vasodilate. So basically all of the blood comes to the surface of the skin to try and cool yourself down. So that's why a hot shower ultimately cools you down. And conversely, with the cold shower, when you get cold, you vasodilate. So all of the blood gets sucked into your core. So that helps keep you warm, basically warms you up. Yeah. So that's why cold showers help you warm up. Warm showers help you cool down. So no, doing it at night, all good. Go for it.
We can burn our layers of skin off quite happily and still sleep nicely.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. I feel better about that now, because people whinge at me all the time about having such hot showers. And now my one of my little ones, she's 7, and she will do the same thing. She, like, my older kids can't get in her shower because she has it as hot as I do. And I've always, she's got much more delicate skin than me, but she loves a hot shower in the evening. So I guess we're really not doing anything too bad.
And generally women run colder than men as well. So maybe that's why we feel like we need the heat to warm us up, whereas a guy, is already bloody roasting. So
yeah. Oh, very interesting. Well, thank you so much.